Hey, what's up? I got some more lore content for you guys. It has been a hot minute since Detective Tempo has been here, but we do have some new cards to review and go over. So this will be my first time seeing a few of these cards. I've seen a couple, I've heard about a couple, and then there's a couple that I haven't heard about. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix. So let's just get right into it. These cards will be dropping on February 28th, I believe. So just keep that in mind. These are not coming out this week as of recording, but next week. So we are going to be looking at a 5-mana slow speed spell from Demacia called Taloned Strike. Oh, Talon? Talon mentioned? Maybe Talon's going to be added to the game? No, this is for the birds. So, Talon Strike is a slow speed spell that says, grant allied birds everywhere +1/+1. So it's kind of like that Siren Song effect where you want to, float early and then use a spell that gives you value later. This is for our bird allies. An allied bird also strikes an enemy, so we get a one-sided strike. So honestly, pretty interesting. The only issue that I can see with this card is that a bird deck just isn't that great. Whereas this card is pretty solid. Like, of course, Valor really wants this. The Silverwing Vanguards really like this. You know, the challenger ones. So we could see maybe some kind of deck with this in the near future. I think if we got more bird support in the March expansion, maybe. So they just keep like adding a couple bird things here and there. Right now this deck doesn't exist, but it might in the future. So right now this is a pretty meh card, but in the future it could be a pretty decent one depending on what birds are added. And if we somehow magically get another bird champion that isn't Anivia, maybe Talon Strike will be really good, but we'll see. Next card here, we have Prototype Porobot. So this is one of the ones I have not looked all the way through. I don't know what this card does exactly. This is a 2-mana 1/1 from P&Z. It is Attune and Elusive. These are really good keywords for P&Z. Last Breath, grant a random 6+ cost spell in hand. When I'm played, summon a Prototype Porobot. Oh, okay. So it's Porotag instead of Tech, which I find kind of interesting. But you still want to play this with Jace, obviously, because of the random 6-cost spell buff kind of thing. So when you cast the 6-cost spell later on in the game, it will also summon a Prototype Porobot. On summon, you'll get the Attune, you'll also get another Elusive. And it's kind of just like a reoccurring threat, in a way. Poros want this because it's another Elusive Poro, so like the King loves this card a lot. And the Attune helps with the Poro snacking as well. So I think this card actually will be better immediately in Poro King, but it might also be really good in Jace right away and a little bit more later down the line, depending on what other cards we get. Next, we have Chained Caster. Sorry about the resolution on this one. It looks a little weird, but this is a 0-mana 3/2 from Targon that says, on play, curse me with shackles. So it's a 0-mana 3/2, but you have to pay 2 mana to attack with it. So it's basically a 2-mana 3/2. Unless, of course, we're using this as some kind of self-slay target. So this is a really interesting concept for something like maybe Callista, and Ravenous Butcher, Wings and Wave, things like that, just to have another token. The weird thing about that is that this is Targon. Targon has never really been played with Shadow Isles in that way. But hey, maybe some kind of Mordekaiser, Chain Caster, and we go Targon second region. Who knows, right? But that's kind of like the immediate synergy I'm seeing. Playing this in an aggressive archetype as a 0-mana 3/2 that you also pay 2 mana for the shackles just isn't very feasible. So I can't see that being the case. This is probably some kind of target for something. Next, we have Prancing Sea Spirits, a 2-mana 1/1 elusive from Ionia. Just what Ionia needs. On play, summon an exact ephemeral copy of me. Yo, that's really strong. So I'm sure a lot of people's immediate thoughts, the same as mine. This is a Zed Gwen card right here. It's an elusive attacker. It can gain Hallow, which is super good, from the Gwen side. And then it also summons an ephemeral copy of itself. That ephemeral copy will be buffing like the Green Glade Duo, it will be buffing the Shadow Blade Apprentice or whatever it's called, and then it will also be proccing Shark Chariots from Grave. So just overall, really, really strong card for Zed Gwen. I don't know if we could see this anywhere else. Maybe Ari Kennen would want this because Kennen will turbo level from the Prancing Sea Spirits. You play this, you recall, you replay it. That's 4 procs for Kennen already. So you could do that there too. So that's kind of like the direction I'm seeing for this card. Really, really good. This one has a lot of potential. Alright, next we have Adastine, the Disgraced. 8 mana, 8/4 with Fearsome. When I'm summoned, grant me Deathless. And since this is an on summon effect, when it dies and resummons itself with 1 health and stuns, it's going to gain that Deathless again and again and again. So this is a reoccurring threat that once it gets on the board, it's going to stick. Since it is Titanic, as we can see, we probably want to cheat this out, maybe play it a bit early, because like turn 8 and then having a reoccurring threat onwards is a bit slow. So Edestine, if it can come down earlier, maybe turn 6, should be a lot better. On attack, give enemies -1, -0 this round. I kind of wish this was a permanent -1 and not just a this round effect, and then I think it'd be really good. But I'm leaning towards alright. Because like a reoccurring threat that stuns itself on death might not be like the best thing in the world, and you're only getting its attack effect off every other turn. Otherwise, it's just kind of sitting there as a blocker. So it's okay. Of course, you can hush it. Of course, you might be able to, yeah, obliterate it, and that will be pretty nice, but it's kind of like that's a strong effect to be a reoccurring dude that just keeps summoning itself, but I don't know. It's kind of slow, right? It's kind of slow. Maybe it's going to be good in War Mothers, though, of course, because War Mothers loves this kind of card. Anywhere else? I'm not really seeing. It is a dragon, and it is Titanic, so there are some synergies to play around with. I'm curious to see what decks are going to be built around Edestine and how good he can actually be, because right now I'm leaning towards like the mid side. Next we have Bethany, a 4 mana 3/4 from Freljord. When you play a slow spell that targets a single ally, also copy it onto me. Now that's really, really good for Udyr. Udyr just got a buff. He's eaten kind of good. The stance swaps are really powerful. Now being able to basically double cast them is insane. So you want to play the stance swap unit on 2, right? The 2 mana 2/2. Float turn 3. Play Bethany 4. Udyr 5. Udyr will make the stance free. You have 3 mana to work with like Sky Splitter, maybe your second region Demacia, you have strike mana. You're just in a really good spot right on turn 5. So now you can kind of power curve Udyr a little bit more. I think this is exactly the kind of card that Udyr needed. And this is kind of the ones that we've talked about, like, oh yeah, the deck would be good if it just had some more support. This is it. This is a really, really good card. I could also see Bethany working with like Aphelios and Eternal. Play Freljord, Targon. Guns are really good. You can give both of them Overwhelm, both of them Lifesteal. You can also curve them into each other, Aphelios into Bethany. This is just a really, really good card. I could also see like other synergies with this too. So yeah, this one is definitely one to look out for. Super scary. And next we have the one that I've been asked about the most. This is Chakram Dancer, a 5 mana 3/4, play, deal 1 to anything, and your skills drain while she's on the board. So a lot of people have been asking me, what are my thoughts on this card in Jin Annie, obviously, because Jin Annie can run her since she's a skill unit. So what are my thoughts? Okay, so my thoughts are, it kind of depends on the matchup and the meta that we're in. So like, let's say, for example, I'm going to give best case scenario. The meta is 4 or 5 aggro decks. Okay, a lot of things are aggro, a lot of things are burn, elusives, discard, right, with Jinx, stuff like that. So like, let's say that is the meta. This may be the best card in the game for Jin Annie. It would turn Jin Annie into like a turbo tier 0 deck by itself, because then you can win like any race where the opponent is focused on trying to burn you out. So Chakram Dancer allowing you to drain with all your skills is absolutely insane. Absolutely. Against mid-range, which is like the second best case scenario, I think this card's actually still decent, right? We're not trying to win the race too much in that matchup, but the deal 1 to anything is still really relevant. Being able to proc Lotus Traps with this, being able to proc Pirouette with this, because that will be a plunder if we hit the enemy nexus. Just really, really cool synergy, and you can also curve it after Jin. So like, let's say you're attacking on odds, you set up Jin on defense 4, and you don't have a stun in hand. you can do Chakram Dancer first action 5 and feel pretty good, especially if you are proccing that Lotus Trap, and then you're draining that turn too. So really, really cool. I like it for that. Against control, this card is like borderline useless. Just not very good at all. We're not going to be able to use it. It's probably going to clog up our hand when we kind of need more aggressive openers to try to get past the early game removal stuff. So yeah, it's going to be kind of sucky there. So that's why I said it kind of depends on the meta. If the meta is all aggro, Dancer's fantastic. If it's mid-range, Dancer's fine. Probably run it at 2 of and see how it goes. Control meta, probably would not run it. We just need more 2-drops for the most part, so that way we don't have inconsistent hands, and we basically call it there. But yeah, really, really good. I'm excited for Chakram Dancer. I am pleasantly excited. Next we have Kashuri Swipe. This is one I'm not pleasantly excited for. This is a 3-mana slow speed spell that says, kill a unit if it's damaged. Otherwise, deal 2 to it instead. So this is Lord Bromane's effect, just built onto a card. It's kind of funny to see how strong Lord Bromane is, because his passive is also like permanent once he's on the board, like while he's there. And this is like a slow speed spell that costs 3 that's also his effect. So like, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy how strong he is to have a 3-mana slow speed spell built into his kit. He has a death passive, he's a good body, he's a boon target. Like, if you start thinking about the mana value, that card is worth like 8 or 9. He's absolutely insane for what he does, especially in Elder Dragon, where again, he gets the extra buffs like Deathless, and that's kind of cringe. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here. The spell is pretty good. It's like not as good as Disintegrate because it's slow speed and it costs more, but it is a slow speed Mystic Shot and also an Execute, so it should come up sometimes. It's like kind of like Scorched Earth, but damage, but like good for Swain. So I'm having some mixed opinions. I think it does add a little bit more power into the control Noxus archetypes, you know, which we haven't seen in a little while, ever since the Swain nerf because of Swain Alawi. But Swain wants this. He really does. And I think it's probably decent. Kill a unit if it's damaged. Yeah. Otherwise, deal 2 instead. Yeah. For 3, it's slow speed. It's so incredibly fine that I don't really have anything else to say about it. I think it's good. I don't think it's insane. I don't think it's dog either. It's just kind of good. Alright, next we have Sneaky Swap. I love the art for this one. The Hungry Owlcats are so derpy in such a cute way, and I like them for that. So it's a 3-mana fast speed spell from Bandle, of course. Recall an ally to summon a Hungry Owlcat in its place. That's really interesting. So this is most comparable to Shadow Shift, right? Like Zed's spell. But instead of a Shadow, we're getting a Hungry Owlcat. It's 1 more mana than Shadow Shift too. So this is better as protection. Okay, so Shadow Shift is probably better during combat. And Sneaky Swap is better as a response to removal, because if, like, let's say your Nora is getting Mystic Shotted, you can Sneaky Swap, place in the Hungry Owlcat, and the Spell Shield will eat the Mystic Shot. Right? That's where you're going to get all your value. I don't think we're going to be doing Sneaky Swap during combat unless something gets vulnerable or challenged. Then I guess we can do it, and it's okay. But we're not going to be using this for trading in the same way that you use Shadow Shift to, like, trade over things. This is more like solid protection. When it comes to using this as a response to a spell, this is way better than Shadow Shift, because that unit with Ephemeral, the Shadow, would die, whereas the Hungry Owlcat is going to stay, and you're going to have a 2-1 body. So that's like a little bit of a give and take there. For 3 mana, Recall Synergy, maybe like, again, Ari Kennen kind of stuff would be pretty decent with this. Nora would probably want this for some form of protection. You could probably run this in Elusives and be able to replay things. So just overall pretty okay. I think if it was 2 mana, it'd be broken. It'd be really, really good. Every Bandle City deck would want to run this as the form of the protection. But for 3, it's honest. It's fine. It's pretty good. And finally, we have Horned Swarm Caller, a 6-mana 6/6 dragon from Shurima. It has Fury, because, you know, dragon tag. That's good. Play. Grant 2 enemies -1, -0. And disable their positive keywords. Wow, that's interesting. 6/6/6 is a pretty fair stat line. You can play this a turn early if you have the dragon girl from I think Targon, right? The priestess, whatever her name is, that lets you play dragons for 1 mana cheaper, and that's pretty cool. Oh, this is Shurima though. Shurima's a really awkward region to put this Swarm Caller in. I mean, at the end of the day, as creative as I want to be, this is just going to be thrown into Elder Dragon decks because it costs 6, right? So I shouldn't really think too hard about it. This is just for like Elder decks to have another body. It's another good boon target. It's a really strong effect. Shyvana Dragon will be good with this, right? Shyvana Elder will like this card. It's going to be good in the mirror match because you can turn off Fury. It's going to be good against Overwhelm because you can turn that off. It's going to be good against Formidable, so you can turn off Galio. And Ballin. Yeah, it's a pretty decent mid-range card for Elder Dragon. That's what I'll say about it. Like, Shurima does not want this. I don't think this is a Shurima card. We're not going to see this in, like, Akshan. Akshan's getting rotated. We're not going to see this at all, I don't think, in, like, some kind of weird Shyvana, Shurima dragons. No, this is just an Elder card. And it's a pretty good one. So, alright. That's a pretty decent one to end on, too. I like this card. I think this is a little bit more on the good side for Shyvana Elder, which is already eating extraordinarily well. So, yeah. Overall, I'm pretty excited about the variety set. I'm even more excited about the expansion. 1 month from the set's release, so we're going to have an expansion late March, and we're going to see kind of where all these cards are being pushed from, right? Because a lot of the times what Riot likes to do is sprinkle some synergy cards, and then during the next expansion kind of wrap it all up, put it all together, and then we have stuff to work with. So I'm curious to see like if that's going to be the direction for the birds, because the birds are looking kind of supported, so I want to see like what's going to tie all that together. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'll have another reveal when the new expansion is all laid out. I'm going to go over all the cards. I'll probably give them star ratings and stuff. Go a little bit more in depth and in detail than I did this video. I just want to do a quick breakdown for you guys so you can know my opinions, maybe have some initial starting points when the cards come out. That way you have an idea like where to take some of the cards, and we'll see what is strong, you know, when they come out. I'm pretty excited to see maybe some Udyr stuff with that new Bethany card. She looks really good. Her and Chakram are on my radar the most, so be on the lookout for decks from me featuring those cards as well. And that's it for this one. Please like and subscribe if you thought this video was informative or entertaining. It really helps me out. I'll be releasing more deck profiles, guides, gameplay highlights, and meta reports in the near future. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one. Laters!